Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition, a Thursday edition of PodUp Matthews in the morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. Glad you're along for the ride. We've got a good show lined up. We'll have Brent Beaird, our college football analyst, and also Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. If you missed it last night, Gator softball wins at Stetson, and Orange and Blue game set for Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the Swamp. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tent. We're joined by our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
Shane, good morning. Hard to believe that our basketball season is over, but congratulations to the Gators and Masters going on, and baseball and softball in full swing. But we've also got spring games this week and next week, so that's a good thing too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A lot of spring games. Majority of the SEC's playing this weekend. The only one being televised, and we discussed this last week, is A&M, but it's next weekend, I believe.
It is.
And a few teams are not even having spring games, which I think that's the way college football is moving. Do you think that's probably what's going to happen here in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Maybe, or I think the thing they're going to do, they're going to morph it into something else, like OTAs, for lack of a better term, as the NFL does. I think they've got to do something for the fans. And again, they don't have to give away trade secrets as what they're doing. But the fans pay a lot of money and they deserve something. So,
yes,
A&M, the only team that will be on television Saturday, April 19th at 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. And some schools are having the radio broadcast of the game and some are not. So that's something to listen to also.
Well, speaking of that, we had a text that came in on the Titan MR text line regarding the Gator Radio Network asking, if I can find it here. I don't know why it's not coming up now, but I think I could have sworn it came through. Anyway, there will be a broadcast. Sean and I will have live. I don't know what the hell we did it last year, and we ended up talking about stuff that wasn't even going on during the scrimmage or what have you. There's not a whole lot you could talk about. But yes, there will be a broadcast there at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I don't know why the text is not working now. Interesting. Brent, for all the people that love the transfer portal, we have a opening window coming up here in the next week.
Yeah, the transfer portal is going to be April the 16th through April the 25th. The reason we bring that up is because of the date when it is. This still really makes no sense, frankly, that in the transfer portal is the reason we're not having very many spring games. Coaches are concerned about their players may get poached. But again, as we've said, there's tape out there regardless. So I'm not sure that would even make that much difference, but we just need to be aware of that. So in 6 days, the portal will open again. It's not open very long, thankfully, but it will be open for a little bit over a week.
Yeah. The Gators lost a defensive back who's going in the portal. I saw it yesterday. It was a 4-star. I don't think he's played it down. I wasn't familiar with him. Brent, what's going on with the House settlement? What's the newest update?
Yeah, the judge in the House settlement has said that she will not grant final approval until they make some changes in the agreement. And still, this is a thing that we've talked about for months now is that Claudia Wilkin is the judge over this case against the NCAA. It's called the House versus the NCAA. What this basically means, there's going to be a payment of $2.8 billion in damages. Now, this goes back for several years, too. I believe it's 2016. There's a lot of legalese still to get done with this, but the bottom line is, and the Cliff Notes version is, what we will likely have this available for the schools. My understanding is it's probably going to be 20 to 21 million per schools that will go out, and this will be the next step, frankly, in the revolutionary changes for college football. So we will keep folks up to date. I won't get bogged down in the weeds here too much, but just want to let folks know that that is still going on, and the judge has asked for some clarification and some I'll say subtle changes that after that's happened, she should sign off, and it should be a go after that.
Yeah, Mark on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, bring Lagway up in the press box and explain what's going on with the shoulder. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
State of Alabama trying to help support high school football a little bit more with the new television deal they got.
Yeah, I love this. It's a great idea. The state of Alabama, and I know we've done this here in Florida before, but for the state championship games, which occur in December, the state of Alabama and their public television actually televises the games, and they do a really professional job with it. But what they've decided to do is, from what I understand, is basically have kind of a game of the week during the season, and not just have the championship games. I think this is a great idea. I believe they also do the championship games in basketball. So this is Alabama Public Television. Would be wonderful if we could get this at some point during the state. I know it takes a long time to get things like that done, but at the same time, it's a neat idea, and hopefully it will spread.
Yeah. Ronnie Cottrell, former, I think how old is he? He's taking a high school job in the state of Alabama. He used to be at FSU, but I could have sworn he was on the staff at FSU when I was being recruited by them. Is it the same guy? Yeah,
same guy. Yes. I mean, he stayed in football. Ronnie Cottrell, when he was at FSU, was considered the best recruiting coordinator in the land, bringing in big players now. And I think this is probably a done deal by now, but he'll be the head coach in the state of Alabama at T.R. Miller for that high school. Cottrell has been a high school coach now, Shane, for many years. And to your point, I need to look this up. I'm not sure how old Ronnie is either, but yes, he is about to take another job, and that is the same guy. So, and listen, speaking of high schools, if I may say this, the Florida Coaches Coalition is expecting that a bill will be brought before the state House and Senate that high school coaches are going to get paid, according to the story, $15 an hour, among other things. Now, that doesn't sound like maybe a whole lot of money, but high school coaches work hard. They work long hours. We've talked for years, I'm sure you have too on your segment, that they need more money. Now, the state of Georgia and some other states really pay their high school coaches well. And not only do they pay them well, but they really don't have to teach very many subjects either. So this is something that's been going on for a while. It's a new bill that's come up, and hopefully we'll see some progress in helping high school coaches out.
Yeah, it's been a mess. It's a mess in the state of Florida. You go to Georgia, as you said, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas come to mind. Those coaches are paid very well and don't have to teach class. And get to coach football. And
right.
I've always said a high school football coach or a high school coach in any sport will influence a kid more than any other person in their lifetime because of the age they're at when they're in high school. And it's a shame what the state of Florida does. I don't know how else to put it. Gosh, Dan Mullen's already lost his defensive coordinator, Brent.
That's
what
right.
happened?
Yeah, Zach Arnett, who was at Mississippi State, went to UNLV. He has resigned. The only thing we know with this right now is it's quote unquote for personal reasons. So now Shane, it doesn't take long to do the math here, but this leaves the coach in the lurch when your defensive coordinator resigns during spring practice. I mean, look, he'll get somebody and they'll be okay, but that's kind of the latest there. And you're right, that puts him behind the eight ball a little bit too.
Yeah, for sure. The Pouncey twins, Mike and Marquise, invite you to try the mango martinis at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, handcrafted with their J.F. Hayden liqueurs. Try those flavors or find your favorite at shopjfhaydens.com. Brent Beaird, college football analyst, Heisman Trophy voter here. On the Titan Tomorrow hotline, courtesy Comfort Temp. I'm looking here at some Facebook Lives. Joseph says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Law, no one has a spring game. They're glorified practices, if that. What's going on in Tuscaloosa, speaking of spring football?
Yeah, basically the same thing, that they will have a glorified practice on Saturday, and a lot of these things now are going to be going through some drills and fans taking pictures with players type deal. So, I mean, I know that's better than nothing, but and they're still trying to figure out the quarterback race in Alabama. Now, Ty Simpson, for what we understand, the coaches aren't saying this, but the Ty Simpson has done a really good job. He's probably number one, although that's not going to be admitted by the coaches at this point, and that's okay. Austin Mack, all 6'6" of him, is in that race too, along with Keelan Russell, who is a freshman that really looks good. That got all kinds of potential, great arm, but is he ready for SEC defenses? And I can tell you the answer to that would be no. And for only the fourth time in 80 years, Alabama will not play a typical spring game this year. So, but as I said, they will have a radio broadcast of what they're doing. So a little bit of a Bama update as they end spring practice this week, like several other teams.
What's going on with the Auburn Tigers?
They have got their kicker. I know this may sound trivial, but it's really important. Their kicker, Alex McPherson, 2 years ago, was really good. In 23, he was 13 of 13 on field goals and 40 of 40 on extra points. But last season, McPherson got sick, and he stayed sick for a good bit, lost a lot of weight, lost a lot of strength, had some stomach issues. He's now back to 160 pounds, wants to get up to 170. It's just been kind of a nightmare for him. But when he's healthy, he's a tremendous kicker, but he hasn't been. But now he is much better and hoping to be able to give it a full go in the fall.
The Georgia Bulldogs, Brent, I know it's spring football, but I don't know. Maybe it'll crank up a little bit more as we get into July and August. But doesn't this feel like the first time from a national perspective that kind of Georgia, I don't want to call them flying under the radar, but nobody's really talking about them?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, because they're really not. I mean, Georgia's in the mix. They're obviously a top 10 team, but the reason is Georgia's got a lot of holes to fill. I mean, obviously the quarterback situation, we think it's going to be Gunnar Stockton at this point. And I mean, he played well last year for them. So that's probably going to be the guy. Now they've got some really good players as always. Nate Frazier at running back. Colby Young is in at wide receiver. Noah Thomas is wide receiver. Oscar Delp is back at tight end. We mentioned Noah Thomas. He was at Texas A&M. He's 6'4", so he's got good size on him. So they're expecting good things for him. Also, Zachariah Branch, the Branch brothers have come in from Southern Cal, so that's going to be a big help to them. So, and Georgia will have a spring game. It won't be on TV. Not sure about radio yet, but they will. And to Shane's point, they will be good. We know they've got talent, but they've got to fix the offensive line, season the quarterback, get more out of the wide receivers, frankly, and get more depth. So a lot of issues at Georgia.
Yeah, there are a lot of people chiming in on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, about teacher and coaches pay in the state of Florida. It's terrible. I don't know how else to put it.
No doubt.
T. says both his brothers are teachers and coaches in Georgia. They can't afford to move back. They'd be crazy to move back to Florida.
Yeah, sure.
With the support and amount of money those people make in the state of Georgia. All right, Brent, the Gators cranking it up Saturday in the Swamp. What's going on in Gainesville?
Yeah, the guy you were talking about a few minutes ago is Gregory Smith III, 6'4", 4 years of eligibility left. I mean, it looks – sometimes these guys get just caught up in the numbers. They want to go somewhere else, and certainly wish him well and hope it works out. The backup quarterback situation is interesting, kind of where that is going to go. Obviously, Graham Mertz is gone. Harrison Bailey, also Aiden Warner stepped in, Clay Millen. A lot of names probably that aren't real familiar to folks, but look, any school in the SEC, that backup quarterback's important because you're always the proverbial hamstring away from having to play.
Yeah, the backups will be Harrison Bailey and Tremel Jones, the freshman, I think, from Mandarin High School. The other guys are they're out there, but
yeah,
when it's
understand.
Crunch time, it'll be those guys. What's going on in Baton Rouge with the Tigers?
Kind of the same thing, post-scrimmage autograph session. With this, they will have a spring game, no TV or radio in the game. Fans are invited to watch the practice and the scrimmage. This is beginning about 10:30 in the morning, so some of these schools are having their spring a little bit earlier. Jacoby and Guillory, one of their senior linemen, got hurt this week, and they're hoping that he is going to be back and has played. Well, I said hurt this week. It actually was hurt months ago, so he's going to be better. Had a ruptured Achilles, so he is on the mend. Sadir Mitchell, another defensive lineman, got hurt. He was one who got hurt this week, and he is. They're not real sure how he's going to be, but a lot of talent with this LSU football team. They are the number one team in the transfer portal as far as the talent they've brought in, and we will break that down more as it goes along. So LSU with their spring game this week too.
Ole Miss Rebels picked up, I believe, a kid that was at Alabama last year, transferred over to Ole Miss this year.
Yeah, good point. Caleb Odom is a guy we're talking about. He is 6'5". As a receiver, he is from the state of Georgia. Didn't quite work out at Alabama, although they certainly saw the potential within him. Too, he was basically more of a tight end coming out of high school, but he's become more of a receiver now. So, Shane, I think we both know Lane will never lack receivers on that offense, will he?
No, he won't. Not at all. Mike says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, I just read the Condren family just donated $1 million to basketball. Wow. Yes. Gary Condren, I believe, did donate that. I saw that as well.
Yeah.
You know what drives me crazy? When I watch a Gator baseball game, behind home plate, from the view from the pitcher to the batter, it says on the brick wall back there, it says Condren Ballpark, but there's this space between the N and the D and the name Condren. It drives me insane.
Oh man.
I wish it's been there ever since he put his name on the ballpark. I wish they would fix that, but it drives me crazy.
Good point.
What's going on with the Tennessee Vols?
Tennessee is the really big thing. This just happened yesterday. Is you remember Nebraska canceled their series with Tennessee, and they needed to get somebody, and they've got a pretty good game. Tennessee and Georgia Tech have added a series. Next year is going to be in Atlanta, and then in 2027 will be in Knoxville. And this game will be not this year, but next year in 2026 will be, as we mentioned, in Atlanta, but it's September the 12th, which means it would be the week after the Labor Day weekend. And that's a pretty good game because usually the week after Labor Day, you get some really poor games, but this will be one of the better ones. Brent Key has done a great job, frankly, at Georgia Tech. So good for them for being able to schedule something so quickly. And Shane, as you know, when you get if you're an AD and you get a game canceled, that even if it's the next year, sometimes it's a real headache to find somebody to replace them.
Yeah, it is. Andy's got a great question. I brought this up on the program the other day. It's brought to you by Melton Law. He says, Brent, what is your take on Grambling's Mickey Joseph pushing for compensation when a player loses a player through the portal? Does that have any legs? Did you see that, his comments at all, Brent?
Yeah, a little bit to it. I'm not sure that it does. There are just so many, it's almost exceptions to the exception to the exception type stuff. And how far down do you have to dig in this before? And I don't know if that will pass muster, frankly. So, I mean, Shane, don't these situations almost get more bizarre by the day with what people are trying to do?
Yeah, they do. But I support this one. I'm probably in the minority because obviously one of my closest friends, Kerwin Bell, has had a bunch of diamonds in the rough that he recruited and developed his tail off. And these players have had success. And then he loses them to go be backups at Power 4, a group of 5 schools because he has no money. So I feel like if they go from a lower level up to a bigger school, I think there should be some type of buyout. Yeah. I don't think it will ever happen, but it only makes sense to me to help out those smaller programs. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go from Florida down to Western Carolina, I don't think you should have to pay anything. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it. But it will be interesting.
It will.
I salute Mickey Joseph for bringing it up because he's probably lost some good players to some schools that he needs compensation for. So what's going on with the Texas Longhorns, Brent?
They have a lot of injuries, and they've really struggled just to get through spring. C.J. Baxter with the knee. Remember, he got hurt early last year with the running back. Safety Derek Williams, another knee situation. DeAndre Moore, a receiver with a foot situation too. Ryan Wingo, another receiver with a hamstring. So the problem is that they've just got a lot of guys who've got to heal, and they've got to get through spring right now, frankly. So, and they're going to be good. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the Arch Manning starting tenure is going to be on the horizon. So, but the thing that's made Texas so good over the last few years is their defense, particularly their defensive line, and they'll have another good one this year.
Yeah. Florida State, Brent, with Gus being the OC now, and then the Castellanos kid, if I pronounce his name wrong, I apologize. Right. I just picture Florida State going back to what was the year that Gus had so much success with the kid that was like a former DB turned quarterback, Nick something. I can't remember his last name. You remember they had it?
Yes.
And he was a running quarterback, and they would throw very seldom. For some reason, that's what I picture at Florida State this year.
Nick Marshall, wouldn't it, Shane?
That's it.
Yeah.
Nick Marshall.
They had a play back then where Marshall was a really good option quarterback, shall we say, and he would run up to the line, and it looked like he was running, and right before he got past the line of scrimmage, he would throw to a wide open receiver. And to your point, for Castellanos, who comes over from Boston College, I'm not saying they're going to do that, but they like him as a runner. Now they've still got Brock Glenn as one of the backup quarterbacks. Akeem Williams is one of their wide receivers. But no, I think your point, and they really just need to rebuild their line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. But the main thing we're looking at is how accurate is Castellanos going to be when he's got to throw.
Yeah, and then you look down at Coral Gables. I totally forgot about this, but Carson Beck's coming off that elbow surgery or whatever it is. He hasn't thrown a football.
No.
Any updates on him? He may not be ready to go.
Well, he has been very limited in the spring. And to your point, no, I haven't heard that he's thrown anything. I mean, there may be, and you can help us with this. I mean, that there just may be some real easy drills that quarterbacks do when they're first starting back from an injury. But no, he certainly won't be able to do anything in the spring game. So that will kind of be interesting to see. Mark Fletcher, the running back, is expected to have a really good year. He's a big-time player, and they've got some big-time players on this team. They've faltered the last few years in November, so that's the thing they've got to be able to work on. The strength of the team may actually be the offensive line, and we'll talk more about that. And as you know, Shane, you're familiar with the family. James Brockemeyer is on this team now at center, so they think that their offensive line will be good. Reuben Bain, one of the better defensive players in the ACC, is back. You remember he was hurt last year in the Gator game, so it's taken him a long time to get ready too. So we wanted to update folks a little bit about what's going on in Florida State and Miami.
Brent, good stuff as always, my friend. Enjoy the Masters, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good. Can't wait, bud. Take care. Thanks.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life at Campus USA Credit Union. 2005, at the Masters, Tiger Woods wins his fourth green jacket on the first hole of a playoff over Gator Chris DeMarco. Marco had him on the ropes and couldn't finish the deal. But that's This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. We're going to take a quick time out. Come back. We'll be joined by the SEC Network's Mike Morgan, get his thoughts on the Gators winning the national title and some other things. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Sign, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Unleash the Inferno.
naysayers, setbacks, injuries. Life throws a lot of hurdles your way. The key is just keep jumping them.
Welcome back to the International Diamond Center Studios. There are many car washes in Gainesville, but only one Gallo Car Wash, locally owned by UF alum and the only car wash that provides NIL opportunities to Gator athletes. Locations on Northwest 13th Street, Southwest Wilson Road, and coming soon to Jonesville. Back to the Titan Emerald Hotline, and we're joined now by a guy who was able to be a fan, and he could put his orange and blue on and hoop and holler. Our man Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. Good morning, Mike. What's going on, my man?
Good morning, Shane. Yeah, definitely surreal. I started thinking about it. First off, you realize like how limited territory 3 national championships are for a program, right? In basketball, right? Like that puts you in really elite company, particularly in the last 25 years. The only program that's won more is UConn. But I was just thinking back to when I was, a young broadcasting student at RUF, and the beat that I got, and really nobody else wanted it because they were supposed to be bad that year with Lon Kruger, was the 94 Final Four team. Got to cover that team.
Yep. And
then when I was doing radio games, I called probably a half a dozen Florida games in 06, 07 when they won the back-to-back championships. Called a number of games on the SEC Network of when Billy's last Final Four team, which is almost like the forgotten team, right? And then this year, I had more Florida games than any other team in the SEC. They got a half dozen was the final count, and knew something was definitely special. I really knew something was special about that roster, Shane, last year. And I was telling everybody, look out for Florida. And then I had egg all over my face. Shows you how smart I am, because I got bounced in the first round because they didn't play any defense. So clearly that was going to be job one in the offseason. Find guys that can defend. Now, they already had rim protectors last year, but now, like Elijah Martin, who's just a dog on defense. Clayton picked up his defense. But as a team, they focused on playing team defense. It's not always like, just having a bunch of shutdown guys. It's how you rotate, how you switch, how you help each other, get each other's back. Probably not unlike football when you think about it, Shane. And the last play is so synonymous with that, because you look at where Walter Clayton was. He's practically on the baseline. And where he had to sprint to get to, right, the three-point line, about 23 feet away, he's got to sprint out there. And then the other skill that doesn't get talked about enough, if you listen to guys like me and Mark Wise throughout the year, the most frustrating thing for us is to see guys foul three-point shooters. It happens all the time, and it happens in the NBA. And it's like, dude, are you not taught? Contest without fouling. Contest without fouling. It's not that hard. And Clayton did that to a T. Even if that kid fired up the shot, Clayton was not going to foul because he's flying at him at an angle where he's going to do a drive-by to his left and avoid contact, but he still has the contest, but he's not going to foul him. That's the difference in winning a national championship and not, because I'm convinced the kid would have hit the shot if Clayton doesn't get there. So all those little things that probably aren't talked about nearly as much as the big things, like, yeah, Walter Clayton's a stud, duh. Yeah, Houck is a beast, duh. But it's those little things. And you mentioned Will Richard. That's the perfect guy. Like, he was a non-factor in a lot of games, and he had to settle on being the third banana at the guard spot, where he could be the number one banana at a lot of different other programs. But he accepted that role, and they don't win that game without him hitting those clutch shots, because Clayton, quite frankly, was terrible to start that game off. He took 5 just heat check threes. I think I texted you. I was like, what is he doing? Yeah. What is he doing? It was very uncharacteristic of him. It wasn't I don't care if you don't score, but just don't make losing plays like terrible shots and turnovers. And that's what he was doing. But he cleaned it up, and people like Richard stepped up when he was being shut down. So how they don't make it to the Final Four without Houck hitting 2 huge shots against Texas Tech. All these things, when you add it up, it's the anatomy of a team. They're not going to have a bunch of first-round draft picks. There's no 5 stars, but they just played exceptionally well together, and that's how you win a national championship.
Yeah, and the thing too is, as you said, they played so well together, but they have great basketball instincts. You know, like like they're coached well. You know, the scouting report, you can see when Thomas Houck is overmatched by the lefty from, it could be Janai Broom or the lefty Roberts from Houston, made him go right? Took away his left hand. Just little things like that. And then, you know, Walt closing out on that 3-point shot, as you said, turning to the side to make sure he doesn't foul. Just, I don't know. I just thought their basketball instincts, things that you cannot teach, they were phenomenal at that stuff. We got a couple of texts here for you, Mike, on the Titan More text line.
Sure.
Actually, this is on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, from Tony. He says, Mike, was it our conversation after the game at South Carolina where we discussed the lack of toughness from the front court? Is that where the season turned?
I actually remember that. Yeah, Tony was at the game in Columbia. I called, that was one of the 6, and Florida was very fortunate to win that. They were down 12 with 10 minutes to go, something like that. And then they put on a full court press, and South Carolina really didn't have a competent point guard, and they just turned it all over the place. Florida was never even a pressing team, but it saved them that night. Yeah, I mean, there's no question the toughness. I mean, Connor's just one of those guys, like, you hate to play him. Shane, you probably played a lot of pickup ball. You go to the courts, and here's this guy, and he's a little bit awkward, quite frankly, because he's new to the game, and he played everything else in Australia, but basketball was certainly not his go-to. But man, he gives everything on every play. He's long, sharp elbows, so he's tough, and you can tell, like, when he does get to the NBA, I'll bet you he gets into a lot of fights because guys are going to hate going up against him. They're going to hate boxing him out, and he gives 2 you-know-whats about your feelings. If you don't like playing against him and his physical, and he's only going to get bigger and stronger, that frame's going to fill out. So he's naturally tough. Houck got tougher and tougher as this, he looks like a choir boy, looks like a Bible salesman, but he got tougher and tougher. And then Martin and Clayton are tough because they're football guys, right? So that is an underrated aspect of the team. There's no question. Tony's right. Like, that is a team that, especially when you're playing a team like Houston, that intimidates the hell out of everybody. You can't just go out there all finesse. You got to be ready to wrestle. And they were up to the task. That game was going to be ugly. If it was Florida-Duke, instead of 65-63, it would have been 85-83. But the moment that Houston showed up in that title game, I said, well, try to get to 70. Now, Florida didn't. Try to turn it over no more than 12 times. I'm pretty sure they turned it over more than 12 times. But they still did enough to win the kind of rock fight that Houston tends to make. It's like playing a Buzz Williams team, formerly of A&M. You just know that the game's not going to be pretty, and you're going to have to win in spite of that, and Florida did.
Yeah, for sure. Amy's question on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Mike, what was more impressive, the Houston comeback over Duke or the Gators comeback over Houston?
Well, I still don't know how Houston beat Duke. So I'm going to say that one because I don't know how in the hell Duke lost that game.
How can you go with Mike? I mean, you've called a million games. You watch a million basketball. I never understand this. The Duke Blue Devils, with the best player in America, with all these other NBA players, Spice Star, McDonald, All-Americans, cannot score a bucket in over 8 minutes. That just blows my mind.
Blows mine too, Shane. And then obviously you got to turn it over. They don't get an inbounds pass in on the baseline. There's a number of things they did. The over-the-back call on flag was bogus, but you got to win in spite of that. They just crumbled, and this is where. And I know there's people. Some people just hate Cooper Flagg. It's weird. It's like the people that hate Caitlin Clark. Sometimes you got to look at yourself in the mirror. Like, take off the uniform. It's Duke. I get it. People hate Duke. If you still hate Cooper Flagg, that's a you problem. That kid played his ass off. They don't sniff the Final Four without Cooper Flagg. He scores 27. He's dunking. He's blocking shots left and right. So he didn't choke. But a lot of his teammates, quite frankly, were not up to the task. And this is where they were the one young team, Shane. Everybody else was old. Everybody else had 21, 22, 23-year-olds. And Duke's out there going, hey, remember when teams used to win it with a bunch of McDonald's All-Americans? Here we are. Let's give it a shot. Cal would be proud of us. I thought that youth and inexperience showed up toward the end of that game. It really did.
Yeah, Joseph says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for Golden's halftime speech to the team. He seems pretty intense. I bet he was pissed and letting him have it. I think what they've done, and it's going to be interesting to see next year. You're going to have a completely different team, but you're also losing your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator, right? One's going to Campbell, one's going to Columbia to coach. But they've made great adjustments because, the ball screen defense, the dribble handoff defense, whatever you want to call it on the perimeter that Houston applied to us was just phenomenal to me. We had no answer. But then we started feeding it down low because I think Houston said, you know what, we're not going to allow these three guards to get going and beat us. Mm-hmm. We're going to see if their bigs can score under pressure down low. But, don't you agree that Golden's made phenomenal adjustments at the halftime?
He's a great coach, Shane. I see it in practice. And no, he's not a yeller screamer. I don't think he goes into the half and just starts dressing guys down, a la Bobby Huggins or Frank Martin. That's really not his MO. He has a great way of relating to kids. He'll be hard on them, but he'll be fair. And he truly is kind of a player's coach. Sometimes that term is misused. Sometimes people think player's coach, he's just your buddy, but he's not really a great coach. No, he's a great tactician. He got that going back to the days of Bruce Pearl and his days at St. Mary's. He played for a really good tactician coach there. But it's little things, Shane. I'm going to tell you the play of the game, and not enough people talk about this. Florida's down 2. There's about 3 minutes left to go. Walter Clayton hasn't hit a shot, and he's taking threes that are not even hitting the rim, okay? But that is your All-American. That is your All-American. That is your alpha, and you're not going to come back and win the game without him hitting a shot. What does Houston do so well that the perimeter guys, as you astutely pointed out, that they're not getting their shots off? They blow up ball screens. Okay, so you try to set a ball screen. It's real. It's the same thing going back to when we played in high school. Guy sets a ball screen for a guy like Clayton. If the defender goes underneath it, well, he's going to shoot the three unfettered. You go over it, well, he's going to go downhill and blow by you. But what Houston does is you put one of those bodies in front of their guys, and they're like, ball screen, boom. They just blow you out of the way, and you've got no shot. It's a contested shot, and you're not going to drive by them. And if you do, they're like an amoeba, and they come in. So they blow up ball screens better than any team in college basketball. But here's what Golden does. Coming out of the timeout, he sets up a staggered screen. 2 guys, one at one level, one at another level. Now, even Houston can't blow up 2 screens. And so Clayton, coming off the staggered, out of the timeout, clearly a called play, hits the 3 from the right wing. Florida takes the lead and never looks back, and Clayton's got his confidence going. That's a winning. Do you know how many big-time coaches in college basketball, after a timeout, they don't call anything. They just throw it in, and then we'll run our stuff. No. An inbounds play is an opportunity for an easy basket or a great look. And they got the great look when nobody else could get one against Houston, including Florida, for much of that game. That's the play of the game. That's coaching. And you mentioned their 2 assistants. they're going to miss those guys because I'm going to tell you, watching them practice, those two dudes are really, really sharp. I love the analogy you made. It's like you losing your OC and DC in football. That's pretty hard to lose. So whoever comes in, I'm sure they'll be very competent, qualified assistant coaches. But make no mistake about it, much like Billy had great assistants, Lon Kruger had great assistants that went on to do other things and be coaches elsewhere. That is going to be a setback because he had a couple of really good assistant coaches that helped run that program.
Yeah. Wes's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mellow Law. Do y'all think we get any big-time recruits off this big year? I will say yes. I think you're going to get a lot of guys in the portal. I'm pretty sure it's this year. They're tearing up or redoing the entire basketball facility, if I'm not mistaken. Plus, we've heard yesterday Gary Condren just donated $1 million to the basketball program. We know Hugh Hathcock's very involved. But with this success and the style of play, I think that's the one thing that jumps out to me the most is kids are want to come play in that style of play.
No doubt. And Florida basketball's back, man. It's on the map. You know, when Billy got it going, there was a time where Florida was in the running for just about every McDonald's All-American out there. Nowadays, as we've talked about, that's not the winning formula by itself. The portal has to be a factor. But you're going to get big-time recruits and big-time portal guys. Florida's going to step up financially. And kids just they watched Florida win a third national title, play an exciting brand of basketball, a fan base that is passionate about the program. And Gainesville's a pretty cool spot for a lot of kids. So, yeah, I think Florida now, there's going to be guys answering the phone that wouldn't take the call before. As we've talked about several times, Shane, this was not a group of highly recruited kids, which is the brilliance of putting this roster together. They had to go with analytics and find guys undervalued. It's a team of undervalued players. And that's a great thing to be able to do. I don't know if you want to live like that, though. They don't have to live like that anymore. They're now going to be in the running for a lot of marquee players that they wouldn't have been the last few years.
I want to get your thoughts before we let you go on Bucky McMillan taking over at Texas A&M. A lot of people may not know much about him, but you talking about a fun system to play in. Those jokers run and gun. Do you like the hire?
Love it. It's called Bucky Ball. In one of the most random assignments I had 2 years ago, you know, I do my normal SEC schedule, a couple games a week, and my boss said, "Look, Mike, I need a solid. Can you do the Samford?" I can't even remember who they were playing game. It was an ESPNU game, and it was like on a Monday, which I normally have off. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. I kind of want to see this guy because I kept hearing about Bucky Ball. And we did the game, and it's an exciting brand. It's almost synonymous with what Billy Donovan did when he first got the Florida job. They're going to launch a ton of threes, up-tempo, pressing, nonstop. We're going to put it on, you know, we're going to go 0 to 120. And if we can play our game, you're going to have problems. And A&M will get players. So it's the complete opposite of what you saw under Buzz Williams. No more rock fights. No more, let's try to win 58-55. They're going to go full throttle and play a very exciting brand of basketball. I like it. I like the hire. And I think Texas A&M, quite frankly, needed a little bit of a fresh refreshener. Buzz does this. He just leaves after a few years at every job. But I think A&M, a lot of that fan base, quite frankly, was ready for a change.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun watching them. We got the draft. You're a draft nerd.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you again, who's going to be the first pick in your opinion? What, in a couple, is it 2 weeks away, roughly? Something like that?
Roughly, the 25th, right in there. It's going to be Cam Ward. I don't think there's any question. The Shador is not even – Shador might go high, but you talk to people that do this for a living, and I saw it firsthand. You know, Shador is not – he's not the talent that Cam Ward is throwing the football. He's just not. He's an exciting player, and he made plays But remember, too, like Colorado might not have been very talented, but he was working with the Heisman Trophy winner at receiver, and their strength was they had a bunch of wideouts that were like dudes. That's one thing they did recruit really well. They weren't great on the line of scrimmage. They weren't great defensively, but Shador had plenty of guys open to throw to in the Big 12, which is not exactly known for its defense. Cam Ward is at Miami, and he's not a flawless player. There's not a flawless quarterback in this draft, but I think Cam Ward is without question. They cannot pass. Tennessee has been so bad and so irrelevant the last couple of years that they can't pass on a quarterback. They've already given up on Will Levis. They have nothing there. So you could go Abdul Carter and just punt the season away and then say, I'll take a quarterback the following year. But I don't think many organizations have the stones to do that because you're basically telling your fan base this is yet another rebuilding year without a quarterback.
All right, last question. This came on the Titan More text line from James. He says, Mike, do you think Desmond Watson gets drafted?
Where do they have him, Shane? I mean, I haven't.
I don't think anybody has him on the board. He bench pressed. He didn't go to the combine, and Dez is a lot bigger than he was when he played this year.
Yeah,
gained a lot of weight, but he broke some record on the bench press, which to me means absolutely nothing when it comes to playing football.
Right.
And he ran a decent time for a guy that size.
I saw that.
I'm pulling for Dez. I just don't know how an NFL team will I don't say waste a pick, but make a stretch for someone like him. I do think he will go to a camp and see what he can do.
You go to a camp and you just play a couple of downs on short yardage, right? I mean, like where else do you put him? He's not an every down player.
Right.
So you could just, as like a novelty, there are some guys, I guess, Shane, that do make a living doing that, where they're short yardage guys when you go heavy and you play a couple of those downs. But is that worthy enough of one of 53 roster spots? I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Mike, who you got on y'all's podcast this week?
We are guestless, just going to be stuck with me and JC this week. But that's okay because we've always got stuff to talk about. We've been heavy on the guest list. But, this NCAA thing, Shane, have you been following this? They just keep kicking the can down the road. We're all just waiting for a resolution on what the final verdict is going to be. And every coach is on pins and needles because it affects how they do everything, how they recruit, what they're going to pay each kid, and what sport. We have to know this. And we were told this would be done, and it's still not. So this is going to be something to keep an eye out because it's a major, major decision that will affect everybody, obviously, including Florida.
Mike, good stuff as always, my friend. We'll talk to you next week, buddy.
You got it, Shane. Take care.
That's Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. Join us on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call, 352-240-1779. Appreciate everybody joining us. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.